This is On the Sidelines with Fox 13.
All right, welcome into another edition of the On the Sidelines podcast here at Fox 13, making his epic return to the Fox 13 studios. We have our first guest in studio, Chris Francis. Chris, how are you doing?
I can't believe I'm back, and I remember where I was walking, where I was going, and you know, this little room's changed. You got a Fox den now.
Yeah,
good
everything's
stuff,
new.
man.
It's all good. And of course, Dante Jackson, D-Jack,
Yes.
is back, my partner in crime, Dante.
Hello.
So, we got a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
Oh, something happened.
Yeah.
Something happened while I was gone?
Yeah, a couple of changes in the Seattle sports scene since you've gone. Chris is now with Straight Arrow News.
Yes.
Doing sports over there, more of a national focus.
Yeah,
right?
it's it's a web-based it's web-based news. So it's news that's on the internet, and I don't really cover Seattle anymore necessarily. But boy, in the last couple days, it's all been about what the Seahawks are doing, and and prior to that, the NHL trade deadline and the Kraken shipping off a bunch of pieces. So yeah, it's interesting it's funny because it was all Seattle centric when I was here and when I was at Cairo, and man, I just thought to myself on Sunday when DK got traded, I was like, and it was like 5 o'clock I think too, and I was like, oh man, that's nice, and I didn't have to do anything. It was day off on Sunday, and but I can't imagine what it must have been like, at a local station here to see that headline, DK traded to the Steelers.
Yeah,
unbelievable.
Well, and then the
going
back to the trade
the Geno
request.
trade. I mean, it was first of all Friday. That was
Right.
amazing.
Yeah, so we're going to get into all of that. This episode's going to be fully dedicated to the Seattle Seahawks with just sort of the reshaping that
How
they've
can
done
you
to
not, right?
their entire team. D-Jack, I'll go to you first. Geno Smith gone, Sam Darnold in. What's your reaction to that?
I was surprised. I must admit, I was looking forward to a season with Geno. I thought the Seahawks were close. You're talking about a team that was the fifth tiebreaker away from the playoffs. And it seems that they blew it up. And I don't understand. Geno Smith is a good quarterback, and I thought he would lead the Hawks next year. So I was definitely surprised. But I'm interested in you, Chris, your national perspective. What is the perspective of the nation? Because
What are they doing?
yes, like okay, all right.
I mean, but how many times did Coach say he was my guy? I think Coach McDonald, he was my guy. And how many at the combine now? I listened to a lot of the combine stuff and around the league, and John didn't give a ringing endorsement. He says he's our quarterback, but he didn't say it.
He said we got to do what's right.
Right.
He sort of left that caveat.
Listen, they saved a lot of money. How well they spend that money is the key to all of this, right? Okay,
Yes.
so I think Geno is going to get $45 million or something somewhere with the Raiders, and DK, he's going to get $33 million and change from the Steelers
Over 5 years.
Yeah, so that's a chunk right there. That's the cap is $279 for the NFL. Two guys are going to take $75 million of your cap, or
Right.
So that's obviously kind of why they did it. They didn't want to pay Geno all that money. Now they're paying Sam Darnold what DK wanted. They're paying him $30-some million.
Now, I
for
talked
3 years.
about this in previous episodes. That's the cost of doing business.
One would think.
Geno and DK were two of our best players. You have to pay somebody, and the salary cap is doing nothing but going up. I'm not buying we can't afford, or the Seahawks can't afford these players, because I look across the league, and each team has multiple players that's getting paid. You're talking about a quarterback in the last 3 years that showed himself to be a sufficient starter, if not above average. And then you have a wide receiver that we talked about. You drafted, you developed. Now it's time for him to get paid. Now, Ethan made the point that they paid them already, and this would be the second or his third contract. However, he's still young. He's 27 years old. I don't understand the move.
Yeah,
I don't agree with it.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. I think the Seahawks want to be more balanced. They want to spend that money somewhere else. They don't want to be top heavy.
Well, and they hired an offensive coordinator that's going to want to run the ball.
Sure, that too. And look, their years weren't that great last year. I mean, they were $30 million great. DK maybe 20. Well, for what he was making, they were great. They were fine. But for what they want, no, I don't think so. So I disagree with you a little bit. I think you're talking about $45 million, $50 million. Maybe it's the cost of doing business, but that's for the Patrick Mahomes and the Josh Allens, and even Joe Burrow, who hasn't really done that much in the NFL, the Lamar Jacksons. Geno is just below that step.
And he's 34 years old, turning 35.
Not only that, so you've got Sam Darnold, who The Seahawks think Sam Darnold can do exactly what Geno did.
Well, what do you think?
I you know what? I don't think they're wrong in that respect. Now, because we talked about 15 interceptions in the last year for Geno, a lot of them in the red zone.
Yep.
I mean, Sam Darnold's, is he proven? I don't know. 1 year doesn't make a quarterback. But if it's going to be in a system where they're running the ball more, and
you can protect him a little bit with the
well,
play
this is the key.
But
do
you
they
actually
spend
need
that
to
money
physically
on the
protect
offensive
him.
line? Do they spend that money that they save?
Well, you're
on
hoping
the
and praying
offensive
that this is just phase one.
Right.
Right.
If
So
it isn't,
now
it's over.
John Schneider has to deliver on the offensive line to protect Sam Darnold. I'm not sold on Sam Darnold. 1 year, I understand it was a career year, but if you put both QBs side by side, Geno and Sam Darnold, I'm taking Geno all day.
Yeah,
I believe he's the better quarterback.
You're probably
and
right.
He's more proven than Darnold also.
Well, but the Seahawks saw what the Vikings did with Sam Darnold, and they said, if we do that, if we put him in a situation like that, we've got a younger quarterback that makes less money that can be successful. But you're right. If they don't, if this is just the only phase, and there's not a phase 2 and a phase 3 to build this, get another. You got to get more targets now.
You have
You're not going to go with
$62 million.
Bobo is not going to get it done.
No.
Bobo's not the guy. Listen, you better get somebody. You better get some guys, and you better get some offensive line. And they better. You're right. If they don't, it's over. It's 7 wins.
Well, let me say this, because the days of "In John We Trust" is done. John Schneider.
You're not even going to give him this year.
Is officially on the hot seat.
Wow.
The seat got warm
Yeah.
when Pete got fired and he was still here.
Yeah.
I'm side-eyeing that. So the fact that he hasn't delivered the offensive line and he traded away a competent quarterback in Geno, what's the plan here? And I assume they do have a plan, but you are on the clock, John Schneider, for this offensive line. It's a must. Now you have the money. It's no excuses.
It's so funny.
No excuses.
It's so funny. I'll let you get to that. One more point on that, but it's so funny that the Seahawks went from running the football and defense that was so boring, it's terrible,
Yep.
and they are back to that, running the football and playing defense more now than ever.
Well,
they
and all
were.
the let Russ cook days, like, man, we just want to let Russ throw the ball over there. And then we got that, and then now we're going back to the Stone Age a little bit here.
We are back to the Stone Age.
Yeah.
Like, this is how they want to win. This is how Mike McDonald wants to win. He wants his defense to be number 1 in the NFL, and they are making strides to get in the top 10.
Yeah.
The offense is going to be a little more conservative. You're not going to, especially without the weapons.
And I think when you talked about not trusting John Schneider as much, and his job is on the line here, but we have to think about what he had to do from his perspective. It's not like he chose Sam Darnold over Geno Smith. The reports coming out, Bob Condotta says John Schneider offered Geno Smith $40 to $45 million a year. He said no, and they didn't receive a counteroffer from Geno. That's what triggered the trade. So he didn't submit an official request, but with those contract, what was he supposed to do? It seemed like, from the reports, Geno didn't want to be here, so he had to pivot. He gets Sam Darnold at $33 million a year, which the starting quarterbacks not on rookie deals that are making less than him are Justin Fields and Baker Mayfield. That's it. That's the list. So, as far as veteran quarterbacks go, you're getting a very cheap one, and one that led the Vikings to a 14-3 record. Can he do that again? That's the question. But you're getting a third rounder on top of that. You've got 5 picks in the top 100. You're in a good situation. Now, what you do with that, to your guys' point, is
and that's where I say John Schneider's job is incomplete. But make no mistake, it was a masterful move signing Sam Darnold for the price that they got him. I mean, he had a career year last year. He's a serviceable, good quarterback. So I love the move by John Schneider. It's just incomplete because now you have to finish it with protecting him and getting the offensive line in place. And a sneaky position that nobody is talking about is running back. I'm not confident in that running back room. You have Ken Walker, who we talked about last week, who is not durable.
Yeah.
You can't help the club in the tub. I already said it. And then you have Zach Charbonnet, who tailed off at the end of last year after getting that big workload from Ken Walker being hurt. So can we count on those two to carry the load that like Clint Kubiak wants to
I would say
run
you
the
need
ball?
to. You have to.
You have to draft a running back.
You spent 2 second-round draft picks on your 2 running backs who are still on their rookie deals. You have to get production out of them. You can't spend another one of those top 500 picks on a running back. I think resource allocation wise, that just would make. I think there's more pressing needs outside of the running back position. Wide receiver, we were talking about it. We don't have DK Metcalf anymore. I mean, Bobo's not going to get it done.
No, they'll. You'd think they'd sign a veteran. I mean, Cooper Kupp's out there.
He is. And that was a question I wanted to raise to you guys.
He's a younger Tyler Lockett.
Is Cooper Kupp a fit, though? His skill set's sort of similar to JSN's. Two JSNs.
True, but I think
as a run blocker as well. I mean,
the thing is, how much money does he want? I
right.
mean, when he's a free agent, who's going to pay him?
Right.
And the Seahawks let go of Tyler Lockett probably purely for money. So, you know, I think it was $17 million they saved by letting Tyler
17.
Lockett go. So if you can get Cooper for under 10 for a year, on a prove it kind of $8 million a year, 9.
Are you comfortable with him as your second wide receiver though?
Why not?
Because you don't have a big, speedy guy.
There are very few of those, and you just traded one of the best ones. So
Exactly.
you're not gonna. This is not going to be, oh my gosh, the coverage is shifting over to DK. We got this wide open hole here. That's not going to happen anymore.
Right.
Because you're not going to get. You don't have that guy. I mean, they're going to have to. They're going to have to spread it out. Tight end, multiple receiver. You know, like juice checks out there. They want a fullback. So like
they need to
look
get
at that
him,
offense
by
that
the way.
Kubiak has run. The one he ran in New Orleans prior to that. Look at his father's offense. It's spread the ball around. It's you don't. Yes, if you have a superstar, it makes it a lot easier, but they're gonna kind of like do it by committee.
Now I heard
sounds familiar around this town. Do everything by committee.
Right, and I heard some
Score by
people saying that John Schneider was trying to recreate the magic from 2013, where they signed Matt Flynn to a similar deal at Darnold, and then went and drafted a quarterback of the future in Russell Wilson, who ended up beating Flynn out his rookie year, and the rest is history.
Yeah, that was a lot of wasted money on Matt Flynn.
I mean, it was when you combine it together, it wasn't expensive as far as a quarterback room, and that's the way I'm looking at it. I think you go get the quarterback of the future or a developmental quarterback, and I want to pinpoint Jalen Milroe of the Alabama Crimson Tide. I think he would be a perfect fit for
in the first round. You take him?
No, I would
wait
take.
Till he gets to the second round.
I mean,
I don't know if he'll last to the second
He's
round.
not going in the first round.
No, he's not. He's not. But he might not last. So where's this first pick in the second round that the Seahawks have?
I don't
so
know.
you want?
And
they have two
I would definitely look at him in the second round. Not too early, but I would definitely look at him.
That's a high pick, man.
I'm seeing third round for him. On some mocks.
Well,
you know, I mean,
you can wait.
If you can get him in the third round, I'm on board. I think second round might be a little bit high
you
for
get
him.
2 second-round picks,
right?
So.
And 2 third-round picks. So I mean, they have the flexibility to move around in the draft as well. That's another
and he will.
aspect.
He will.
Right.
He'll move down. You know. But you know, I think you take an offensive lineman with that first one, and then.
Well, and that's the thing is, you know, offensive line. It's not the most heralded offensive line class either, and you've already missed out on Drew Dahlman, the star center of the free agent class. You missed out on Fries.
Which begs the question to you, Chris, and I'm sorry, Ethan, but what's the national perspective? Do anybody want to come to Seattle? It seems like we have the money in place. You have a successful organization, one of the best organizations in the NFL, in my opinion, over the last decade, if not more. They've been one of the winningest programs. Why it seems we can't snag that free agent, especially O-line, that's young and up and coming. We can get a veteran on his last legs, but it seems like we can never get that young offensive line free agent into the fold. Like, from your perspective, why do you think?
You know, it's funny because up until the scouting combine, when John Schneider said, well, we're going to have to overpay for offensive linemen, he did not want to pay offensive linemen for years, for a decade, for a long time.
It was turned defensive linemen into offensive linemen.
Oh my God, he had a pretty good career actually.
Shout out to J.R. Sweezy.
Yeah. But that's just been his philosophy. Now, whether or not that happens in negotiations, I don't know. But to see those guys go off the board already, and honestly, I think the Seahawks were kind of trying to figure out what was happening with those 2 big pieces first before they could go get a Dahlman. He was gone. He was gone, and maybe Will Fries was down the road already with all his offers, and so the timing maybe just didn't work out in that respect. I mean, I'm not making excuses because I think it has been the biggest failure of this team over the last decade, and everybody knows it, and we all know it. They have not done a good job with the offensive line. It's been the downfall of this team for years.
And
so
it doesn't
why
matter.
don't you just fix it?
Right. It doesn't matter if Sam Darnold, plays up to his potential if he doesn't have an offensive line. Doesn't have an offensive
and he
line.
needs it more than Geno.
Yep.
Geno was adept at reading a defense, getting the ball out in the face of pressure. I mean, look at all the stats and everything behind the scenes and everything that Geno did. And we saw what happened to Sam Darnold in those last 2 games. When you pressure him, look out. It is not pretty.
Got sacked
so
9
you have
times against the
downgraded
Rams.
in that respect. So you better upgrade in the other arena.
Well, and you need to
unless you want to win games 16-10, which they might want to do. I mean, that's just it's boring
and
football.
offensively, just at its core, Clint Kubiak wants to run the ball. If you don't have a running game, and you're not investing in the quarterback position to carry you,
this is all going to be horrible if they don't do something with the offensive line. If the offensive line is not good, it's going to be ugly, and I don't have to cover it.
Well, and D-Jack, to your point, with John Schneider being on the hot seat, if we go another year where he can't figure out the offensive line, or at least take a step to give us some optimism at that position, I mean, what evidence is there to be like, I think John Schneider can fix this offensive line if it isn't done here and now?
The only time you can go back to is 2013 when he drafted those players for that that special team. Other than that, I can't
Carpenter,
recall.
Giacomini.
I can't recall. Yeah. And even when we had serviceable linemen, I mean, what happened to Damian Lewis? I thought he was okay. He switched positions 3 times. He was center.
Money.
He was left guard.
He got paid.
He was right guard.
He got paid.
Why couldn't the Seahawks pay him? Which is the question.
They didn't want to.
And history shows that the Seahawks move slow on these things.
They do.
And you just named a bunch of linemen that went off the board already, the free agents. That's because that's their MO. They want to bargain shop. They want to shop after the big-time free agents have been signed, and this is not the time to do that.
So Mekhi Becton's still out there.
And one thing a fan doesn't want to hear is money. Money is a problem. I don't care about a salary cap. I talked about it on episode 1. We want stars, and we want them here, and we want them now, and I think the fans deserve that. They scream and holler, one of the loudest crowds in the history of the NFL, one of the most supportive fan bases, and here we go, slow playing it and bargain basement shopping.
So when we talked about me coming on here, before all this news went down, it was like last week when you asked, but I know it was big news. So I thought we were going to talk about, maybe the Kraken and Mariners and all that. We just did, because that's the same way they are doing business there.
Exactly.
What is it with this town?
Yes.
I mean, thankfully the Sounders spend a little money.
Yeah.
And
they're spending less though.
They're spending less.
They're relying on homegrown talent. Luckily, they're good at that.
Luckily, the homegrown talent's pretty good.
Yeah. Right.
And Ferreira is there too.
Right.
But yeah, the Mariners, bargain basement. The Kraken, bargain basement. I mean, now he's got all this cap space over there, and he's like, they better spend it.
Right.
Traded away all your guys, and now we're
going
to develop another year.
Yeah, you got to use it effectively.
Right. Okay. So that might work in baseball and hockey, where you have a farm system and you bring people up and stuff like that. That really doesn't do it in the NFL,
No.
especially when the salary cap's going up every year, like you said. $279 million this year. It's a record. It's going to be a record next year again.
Well, and in the NFL, when you have good young pieces, they're on the cheap contracts, so that's when you need to strike.
Right. And you're even getting your quarterback relatively cheap, a proven quarterback.
And you got to look
cheap.
around the landscape. Anybody see what San Francisco is doing these days? A fire sale.
Yeah.
This is the time for the Seahawks to capitalize.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. The division is wide open.
Arizona is up and coming, but nobody trusts Arizona.
No.
The Rams are the Rams. They beat us by a 5th tiebreaker. So we're right there, or was. You've taken a step back this year. There's no doubt about it.
To put in perspective with the Niners and how much they're losing, Adam Schefter, laid it all out.
That.
Traded Deebo Samuel, cut Kyle Juszczyk, Leonard Floyd, Javon Hargrave, Malik Collins, left in free agency, Dre Greenlaw, Charchavius Ward, to Talanoa Hufanga, Aaron Banks, Jalen Moore, Elijah Mitchell, Josh Dobbs, quarterback. But that's a lot of big names for the San Francisco 49ers who were in the Super Bowl just 2 years ago.
They're in full rebuild.
Yeah.
They are. But they're going to pay Brock Purdy $50 million a year.
And is that going to be a good decision?
I don't know, but I mean, that's so.
Niner fans love to tell me that Brock Purdy is one of the best quarterbacks in the league. I don't know.
How much better is he than Sam Darnold? Honestly, I mean, I don't know.
He's better than Sam Darnold, but you're going to pay him
because he had all those players around him.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
but
he's
we're
the
gonna
same
see,
as Sam Darnold.
We're going to
But
see
you ask me,
how
he's
good
the same
Brock
quarterback.
Purdy is.
I would say he's better than Sam Darnold simply because they were on the same staff together. Sam
That's
Darnold
true.
was
That's true.
his
That's true.
You just said
That's
that
true.
on the
Okay,
depth
that's
chart.
fine.
Now, and
That's true. But you know what? I bet there wasn't much drop off.
But that position was in flux.
Yeah.
It was up in the air as who was going to be the San Francisco
and Brock
starter.
took the reins.
And Brock took it, and he
Yep.
didn't look
Trey
back.
Lance is in Dallas, and
Now,
that's it, yeah.
Brock put up the numbers. It's no debating that. I don't know how good he is, but I know he has produced. So I think he's worth starting quarterback money. Is he worth 50, 60 million? I would say not. Definitely
Like
not.
what Sam Darnold's making. But he's not going to accept that.
He's
no.
above Sam Darnold, I would
Okay,
say. He's
so-
a tick above.
Okay, a tick.
Well, so I guess the coming back to the Seahawks with Sam Darnold, he's your quarterback at least probably for the next 2 years at least. You're revisiting
Unless
in that third
you
year.
get a guy like Russell and he just shocks the world.
Absolutely,
But
but
how often
with
do you
Sam Darnold,
hit lightning in a bottle like that.
former third overall pick. Now, who's good with the Jets, right?
No.
Goes to Carolina. Who's good with the Panthers in that organization?
Right.
He has a good year with Minnesota. Which Sam Darnold is the real Sam Darnold?
You're going to get closer to the Vikings version because he's older and he's better than he handles the adversity better than he did, and he knows where to go with the football, and he's been in a lot of systems now, and he knows the game now, the pro game, much better than he did. Yes, he's going to work with a offensive coordinator, quarterbacks coach that knows him and wants to put him in the best situation. I think you're going to get closer to the Vikings version. But we go back to the same point. Are you going to surround him with Vikings-like talent?
Right.
Look at all their receivers. Holy beep. Am I allowed to? I'm not allowed to. This
No,
isn't on.
probably not.
This isn't on serious.
Let's not.
This
let's
isn't on
not.
serious.
I don't want Bavisha to yell at me.
I know, Bavisha. But you're gonna have to beep it out. Are we gonna get? Are we going to get that talent? Aaron Jones. I mean, yeah. Is Ken Walker Aaron Jones? They just re-signed the Vikings. I mean, the Vikings had a great offensive line. Great offensive line. One of the best in the league. They don't anymore, but they did. So, I mean, but then when it all breaks down, we saw
their defense
the
was pretty good,
Their
too.
defense was great. Yes. One of the
He had
best
a full
pressure
team.
defenses in the league, and you saw where it got him until the pressure got to. So, yes, to answer your Sam Darnold question, we're going to get closer to the Vikings version than we did to even the Niners version, which wasn't bad, actually, in the short time he played a little bit. But are you going to surround him? Are you going to give him some pieces? Are you going to help him? Every quarter. Oh, there are very few. I can count them probably on one hand that don't need help in this league. The only, that make magic happen.
Right.
And those guys are all making $300 million or more. So.
And not going anywhere.
Yeah, and winning games. They play each other a lot, but
So how much do you take into account Darnold's last two games, the regular season finale against Detroit, where he missed some throws, and then also that game against the Rams where he was sacked 9 times?
well, so here that's what I'm talking about there in that sense. Like those 5 guys that I mentioned that like make magic happen, and there's no way to really defend them or anything like that. They don't have a playbook against them. Sam Darnold, obviously, there's a playbook against him. You can rattle him, you can make him make mistakes. You can. Most players in the league, there's defense for that. So Sam Darnold's going to need help, and I think the Seahawks watched those 2 games and saw all that and said, I guess we're going to have to figure out. Hopefully that doesn't happen to us.
They also saw firsthand the game where the Vikings were in town and Sam Darnold
won the game.
Led a drive. That throw to Justin Jefferson at the end of the game.
He's got some talent. He
just
needs
that's
a little
good throw
help.
on the run, getting hit to Justin Jefferson down that left sideline to fit it in between Reek Woolen and I think it was Julian Love coming over the stick. That is a pro throw right there.
Right, he's
so,
not going to do it himself.
D-Jack, where do you sit on Sam Darnold, evaluating him as a quarterback? Which version of Darnold are we getting?
It goes back to the plan. I believe Darnold is a middling quarterback, a middle-tier quarterback that, like we just talked about.
System quarterback, maybe.
System quarterback, if you want to call it that. I believe he's not as good as Geno. So right then and there, you're not upgrading the position. When you talk about putting talent around him, do we trust the GM to put that talent around him in 1 year?
You do not.
Because Seahawks fans do not have the patience
You're right.
just throw away a year.
No, well.
Especially when you're a fifth tiebreaker away from being in the playoffs, and everybody says once you're in the tournament, anything can happen. Now, we wasn't expecting the Seahawks to win a Super Bowl, but at least a playoff team. Right now, I do not see this as a playoff team, and I do not see Darnold as a playoff quarterback. We saw what happened. The clock struck 12. He turned into a pumpkin. That's exactly.
Pumpkin Darnold.
Now, he will never live down when he said he saw ghosts.
No,
and
true.
So, and to your point, the book is out on Darnold.
The book is out.
The book is
The book
out.
is out on most quarterbacks.
What are we really doing here? Is it plug and play that we just have a position to fill and looking at a certain price, or are we looking at the player? Money should not be an issue here with the Seahawks, especially for the quarterback position, because that's the most important position in sports. If you can't pay a quarterback, who can you pay? You didn't pay DK. You didn't pay Geno. Two of our most productive players. Who are you paying, Seahawks? And that's the problem. They don't want to pay the price of doing business.
I think Geno's such an anomaly because he's such on that cusp of
Right.
You know, that's the worst part. You know, it's like a shirt that doesn't fit. Like are you an XL or are you an L? Like, and it happens to me all the freaking time. Like, you know, the L's too small, the XL's too big. He's that guy. He's that. Like, do you pay? I mean, do you pay him? But then he makes some stupid mistakes sometimes. But then
And
if
he's
you don't pay
34.
him, who do you get? Like, you get Sam Darnold.
Exactly.
Like, what? So, you know, like what? You say pay him, but
Let's talk about Geno. Three
15
offensive
receptions, those red
coordinators
zone-
in 3
You're
years.
right. I like
no
I like
continuity
Geno.
in the offense.
I like Geno. I think he's better than Sam Darnold, and it's not even close. But they didn't want to pay him, and the Seahawks want to be a little more balanced.
But the
than that.
conversation's a little bit difficult.
They don't
with
want to pay their
Geno.
quarterback $50 million.
if
They didn't want to pay
if
Russell
they-
Wilson $50 million.
If they offered Geno Smith 40 to 45 million and he said no and didn't have a counteroffer,
Well, that's-
then Geno's
okay.
just off the table.
Maybe.
And you
Right.
had to pivot.
And he, to your point, to that point, it was getting late in the game. You already missed out on Dahlman. You got the
Right.
DK situation going on. He wants a trade, so it had to happen fast. This could not linger even one more week. So
I agree.
They just pulled the trigger.
You had
and
to.
even John Schneider says you got to adapt. You got to make moves. You got to go with your gut. Like you just got to go and do it. And then you build from there. So that's what they're trying to do now.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it could fall. It could all collapse if they don't do something soon to get other pieces.
Do you call this a rebuild? What do you call this?
I
What
mean,
do you label this?
I'll tell you this: we will know if it's a rebuild in 1 week's time. If they, honestly,
Yeah.
if they don't, if you don't see the Seahawks in the headlines in the next week, I'm not on Straight Out News saying, "Wow, the Seahawks made a massive," and I don't know how many massive moves there are out there to make. In the next week, it is a rebuild. I don't care what they say; it is a rebuild.
What do you think, Ethan? Would you
so-
call it a rebuild?
so-
I mean, it's not a.
I'm not
Niners
going to
rebuild.
call it a rebuild yet. I'm going to let John Schneider do with the $62 million in cap space what he will, and then I will ask me in a month. They've got the draft picks,
I say a
right?
week. I say a week.
Sure.
I mean, really, who's out there left?
I think with the situation the Seahawks were in, you say that they were a fifth tiebreaker away from making the playoffs. They weren't going to win a playoff game. Maybe you can try to run it back and reload the offensive line, but I just feel like you would have had to pay DK Metcalf. I wouldn't have given him that contract that the Steelers gave
That's the
him.
problem.
They don't
It's
even have a
paying both of
quarterback.
them. It's not paying one.
Right. So
Then you're taking away Geno's biggest weapon.
I feel like the pivot, and we talked about this last episode with reallocating resources. I did not like the amount of money that DK Metcalf was demanding. Talent's there, but there's a price for everything, right? And for me, the price was not right with DK Metcalf. I think the way that they've pivoted this, gotten all this draft capital back, all the cap space, you can sort of reconstruct the roster.
So that's a rebuild.
Reconstruct. I didn't say rebuild. But look,
hairs.
you have the resources this offseason to
Yeah.
get it done. You just need to do it.
Now.
You just need to do it
Quick
right
rebuild.
now. Yes.
Reconstruct.
Retool is
Retool.
what isn't that what Pete Carroll likes to say?
Retool.
Yeah. They're
Reset.
retooling, not rebuilding.
Reset.
So, but the way the roster was constructed, I did not think you could win a Super Bowl or contend for a Super Bowl.
No, and they knew
with the
that.
roster
I
as it was
think-
constructed. So I am optimistic because we're not staying in the middle. We're like, this isn't working. We're going to pivot. So
Unlike some teams that we know,
right. that we're too familiar with in this city.
Would you say they got enough back for DK? Because we were talking about it before.
I don't
we were
think
expecting a
I don't-
first.
Yeah,
No way.
I mean,
in a
No way.
third.
Second
Yeah.
is good.
You
'Cause
know,
there's no way they were getting
Did
first.
they get enough for DK?
Yeah, I don't think they
Second is
would have
good.
gotten more. I think once he requested the trade, the Seahawks' hand was sort of forced. I think maybe had he not requested a trade, you maybe could have held out
Right, everybody knew
closer
he
to the
wanted out.
draft,
Right.
and you know maybe you could have squeezed a first out of the Packers or something like that if he hadn't requested the trade, and you lose all your leverage. He requests the trade, you don't have any leverage anymore. So you know teams are going to play hardball.
I mean, when was the last time somebody was traded for a first? You can look it up. I don't even know. But
yeah,
that's
a good. It's a good point.
Anymore.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's a great point.
But a
So
deeper question is, what's wrong with the Hawks? I mean, this is the first time that I can recall
People
two
wanted
players that people wanted out.
Yeah.
Right.
What's going on with the
Yeah.
Seahawks?
yeah, that's the
It's a
DK
good
thing.
point.
I think came down to money, and I mean maybe he got wind of Geno's deal and is like, I don't want to play with Sam Darnold. Or I don't know. I heard there was a report that he was liking Sam Darnold. I don't know about that, but
yeah.
you know, he's not going to put up Justin Jefferson numbers. He wasn't going to 1,600 yards or whatever, and like fly. That's just not DK's game.
The talent is there to be in the Justin Jefferson
he has
echelon,
never been
but
there.
he's not.
He's never
like
been
he
there.
has been a consistent producer, but not. I feel like to the level that his talent could potentially, open
No
himself
doubt.
up for.
No doubt.
So,
Is
But
that
he-
a DK
he-
problem
see,
or
he
is that a
blamed that on the
Seahawks
Seahawks.
problem?
He would blame that.
I
Maybe
would-
that's
I would
part of
also,
why he wants out.
I would also, but then you go to
Now
go to
you're
Pittsburgh
sharing
with
the
no
ball with
quarterback,
Pickens, and you're sharing
and
Pickens.
Pickens seems like a clone,
Yeah.
and I think an actual better football player than DK as far as route running and just being a receiver. I would give the nod to Pickens, but at the same time, I believe they're the same player. So you go to Pittsburgh with no quarterback. Cold weather,
Aaron Rodgers,
you
man.
know,
Aaron Rodgers.
you requested to go to a warm weather city
with a more
little
stable quarterback situation,
yes.
those are his two
and you
demands.
go to Pittsburgh, and they're talking about raising Aaron Rodgers from the dead. I mean, I understand he's a Hall of Famer. Respect to him, but those best days are behind him.
Well, and that makes me
sure,
wonder
so.
why he even agreed to the contract if, I mean, the Seahawks would not, the team that traded for DK Metcalf would not have agreed
Right, if you
to
knew
the
you were
trade
gonna
if
keep
he
him.
wasn't going to,
Right. Well,
if he
especially they
wasn't
were going to give a second.
Exactly.
Right.
So why would DK Metcalf agree to a contract extension when he wants to be in a warm weather city team without a quarterback? So
Money talk.
yeah, I guess
Money
yeah.
talk.
he got
It's
paid.
all about the money. He
I mean,
got
maybe
paid.
the Steelers are the only team that was willing to pay
It
that.
sounds like the Seahawks
I
drew
don't
their
think that's-
line in the sand and
I
said,
don't
we're
think
not
that's
paying
gonna
I mean,
him.
they
work
could
out.
ship George Pickens out of town next year. You don't
Yeah.
know, or later this year.
Why are you paying a wide receiver superstar money if you don't have a quarterback?
Yeah.
It seems backwards to me.
They should bring Russ back.
Yeah, yeah.
Why not?
What are your guys' impressions on DK Metcalf and the legacy that he leaves behind? We're requesting the trade. It comes out 20 minutes after the Tyler Lockett release.
Yeah.
We're celebrating him. I mean, to me, it leaves a little bit of a bad taste. in
6
my
years? Was he here 6 years or 7?
6 or 7.
6. Okay,
Was
I
it
just
6?
it's
Yeah, I believe
his
it's
legacy is the exact same what we just talked about. He has the talent. He had the. But I think we all every year we were waiting for him to
Explode.
be the superstar.
Right.
Yeah, and so he just never was, and whether he becomes that in Pittsburgh, I don't know, and it's probably not likely without a quarterback and with George Pickens sharing time and all that.
Starting
and
scrums
Freiermuth
and getting,
and all the
getting DK in the fights.
right.
Too.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean the penalties and he just never he never reached. That's another consideration the Seahawks had to think about. Is this his ceiling already?
Right.
Have we already seen it?
Yeah,
Why are we paying $30 million for a guy we've already seen his ceiling?
more than 30 minutes.
Yeah, so
Yep.
yeah, more than $30 million. So that's probably what happened.
And how big was Jackson Smith and Jigba's, emergence? How big of a factor was that?
No doubt
in
about it.
moving, DK Metcalf?
No doubt about it. No
Yeah.
doubt about it.
Yeah.
How do you view DK? Is he sort of a Seattle villain in your mind, like with
No,
him
no.
wanting out of the city? Like where
It's
are
just
we at? Where are
business.
we
I think
at?
it's just
He
business.
left a stain on his way out.
You think
Yeah.
so?
But I still celebrate what DK did. He was a productive player.
I think it's
He
just
was
the
a
NFL,
great
man.
Seahawk. He was a great Seahawk. And at this point in his career, he has to look out for himself and his family.
Yeah.
I mean, we know they'll cut you in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
So to go to get your money, I do not, fault the guy.
Yeah.
Go
I
get
feel
your
like
money.
I feel like the added, wrinkle on top of it is how the news got released and when it did. sort of stomping on Tyler's parade a little bit. And Tyler has.
Was that DK's fault though, or his agents?
That's a great question.
I mean, I think
that's a great question.
It just leaked. I mean, I don't know. If that
Tyler will get his due.
Sure.
He'll be in the
Sure,
ring
he's
of
gonna
honor.
put him up there, right?
He'll
right,
raise the flag
right,
next
right,
year.
right,
I mean, if he decides to retire,
yeah.
which I think
you wonder
should.
where he'd play. Yeah.
He
wants to play. But.
He wants to play. I can't tell the last 3 years he wants to play.
No, that's true.
But drop it to the ground like sniper fire.
He does do. He did fall a lot. He did
mean,
the old run out of bounds. Franco
he
Harris
lost
deal.
a lot of equity with me falling to the ground. I mean, let's call it
maybe
every catch.
Nobody wants to say it because he was a nice guy.
Is that the reason he's still playing?
You know what? It's a fine line. This is football. And I can say it because I'm sitting at home. I'm not taking those collisions. But this is a physical game.
I think it's one. Like, you look at Cooper Kupp, who's sort of on his last legs. He's 31 years old. I mean, Tyler Lockett, I don't have his age in front of me.
36?
36. I mean, is a wide receiver playing 37? To 36 years old if he's not protecting his body like that? And that's Tyler. You know, DK went to go get his money. That's Tyler getting his money too, preserving himself so that he can get more contracts.
He'll play if he wants to play. He'll play.
I bet Pete Carroll will bring him in.
The Jets, anybody. There's lots of.
Yeah.
There are, I'm gonna guess 7 or 8, 9 top receivers still out there in free agency, and he's one of them. So he'll get. I mean, not top, but left over guys out there.
Yeah.
And he's one of them. Yeah. So he'll get some money.
Where do you leave him in the pantheon of Seahawks wide receivers?
He's a Ring of Honor member. I mean, look at all the records he set. Look at all those catches he made, man, over the years. Even when they
all the toe taps.
I mean, come on.
Yeah.
I mean, he got injured too, returning punts, and he broke his leg. He had a knee injury the 1 year. I mean, he's an all-time Seahawk. He's a top 5 receiver Seahawk.
Yeah.
I mean, no doubt about it.
Well, let's end it right there, really quick, Chris. Where can people find all your stuff?
SAN.com, Straight Over News, SAN.com, Sports tab. Shout out to Fox 13. I'm back for a day.
On the sideline, baby.
On the sideline. Thanks for having me.
Hopefully, thank you for coming.
Absolutely.
Hopefully we can get you back on soon.
Yeah, anytime.
Talk some cracking next time. Right?
Oh, man, I was ready to unload. And the Mariners.
We have a whole off season. We've got a whole baseball season to do that. So be on the lookout for Chris Francis return on the sidelines.
I can't wait. Okay.
So DJack the Photog, right, on Instagram. Ethan MCTV on Twitter. Hit us up with questions. We'd love to get more interactive with everyone that's listening. Any Seattle sports, anything that you guys want to know, we'll talk about it. Just let us know. But for Chris Francis, DJack, the best photog in the game, I'm Ethan McReynolds. We'll see you next time on The Sidelines.
On the Sidelines is available wherever you get your podcast.